I think you all probably know. Coming to you guys from the Quag Wildlife Refuge, we are a 305-acre wildlife preserve in Quag, New York, out here on Eastern Long Island. Uh, we do some great work taking care of the property, maintaining its 7 miles of hiking trails, as well as taking care of a number of injured wildlife and some creatures who started out their lives as pets and due to whatever reason were not able to be kept by their owners. So we take care of those animals, but they give us something back. They give us the ability to bring them around and aid us in our environmental education initiative, of which this program this evening is a part. And our mission here at the refuge, actually our obligation, is to serve as responsible land stewards of the refuge property and resources while promoting, implementing, and supporting environmental education. Okay. So, trail cameras. The reason we're here this evening. Trail cameras have become a valuable way to monitor animal species in their natural habitat with relatively little disturbance, which is absolutely integral because a lot of these species that are in danger or need of protection are also very cryptic and usually don't like a ton of disturbance to begin with. This also helps to save manpower and time. And as long as the battery powers last, the cameras are on 24/7. And very often, depending on the model, they can withstand most weather conditions. They can also be used in remote places, and many automatically upload photos to the computers and internet, which gives conservationists a huge edge. They don't have to be in the field all the time, and in some cases, they don't even have to be in the same place to help learn about the creatures that they're studying. So, as with anything, I think a little bit of history is in order to help us learn more about the cameras and technology used as far as our trail cameras go, and the beginnings of wildlife photography. So we start with a very interesting character, Edward Maybridge, who lived from 1830 to 1904. He's considered the father of the camera trap, which would eventually become the trail camera. And in 1878, Maybridge created the first camera trap. He did so by arranging a dozen cameras with tripwires that could set off shutters to take photographs. And his subject was a galloping horse, and you can actually see some of the photos down on the bottom of the slide. And interestingly enough, he was trying to get a photo of a horse with all four hooves off the ground at once, which he did. And his employer, Leland Stanford of the Stanford University and the railroad tycoon, was very, very happy because this actually settled a bet for him that he had with another one of his colleagues and proved that horses enter what's called unsupported transit when all 4 feet are off the ground. And the next character who is incredibly important is George Shiras III, who lived from 1859 to 1942. He was the true pioneer of wildlife photography, using many techniques that were developed before he came onto the scene, including the camera trap. But as far as his life goes, he was born in 1859 to a wealthy family and eventually developed a lifelong love of nature after a childhood trip to northern Michigan, a trip that he made many times throughout his life. He had a very storied career. He was in politics, in the House of Representatives and later Congress. But even though that was the case, he did not want to rest on his family's wealth and laurels, so he pursued his own accomplishments. So, after a life as an outdoorsman, an avid hunter, and fisherman, he eventually transitioned to wildlife photography. By the age of 30, his interest had shifted from chasing trophies to learning about animals and began to exclusively hunt for photographs instead of trophies. And the setting was, meanwhile, in Michigan, not too far from his childhood trip. He would go yearly to Whitefish Lake, which is now part of the Conservancy's Laughing Whitefish Lake Preserve in Dearton, Michigan. And it's incredibly interesting the different things and innovations and techniques that he, in some cases, pioneered himself, and in others, effectively kind of just pulled together to make wildlife photography a reality. So, some of his methods included taking photos during both the day and nighttime. And he was able to overcome the challenges of the bulky and very temperamental cameras of the day using his ingenuity. He employed and further developed the early camera traps, originally pioneered by Maybridge, but he also created some of his own techniques. And if you look over to the photo on the right side of the page, you will see him in his canoe with his mounted camera taking photographs. So, as far as he went, he loved to go out with a helper in his canoe, being as quiet as possible and kind of sneaking up on animals and taking their photographs. At this point, this location in Michigan, a lot of the animals were incredibly curious because most of them had never seen people before, much less the amazing contraptions that they brought with them. And these photos were later collected into his Midnight series. And here are some of the photos. Absolutely stunning work. We have beaver, raccoons, lynx, as well as deer. And something really interesting about the photo on the top left of a beaver, that was the first time that a beaver had been photographed chewing on logs, which is pretty neat. But also, you can really see, besides the deer on the bottom left-hand side that are going absolutely crazy, very startled, a lot of the other creatures were just mainly curious and stood still. And he was able to get some absolutely fantastic photographs. So now on to accolades and exposure. The Midnight series, some of the photos that we were looking at earlier, really achieved global renown, and in most cases, not even relative to his efforts to get them out there. People were so taken by his work that they were actually submitting his photographs into competitions without his knowledge, which is pretty interesting. And he went on to win gold medals at the 1900 Paris exhibition in the field of forestry and photography, even though, again, he didn't enter himself. On the left, we can see a photograph of the exhibition itself with the relatively newly constructed Eiffel Tower as one of the centerpieces. He also received a grand prize in the 1904 St. Louis World Fair. And eventually, his work caught the attention of the National Geographic Society in 1906. And he eventually established a long running partnership with them and eventually became a trustee as well. But one of the things that I find really amazing as far as his involvement with National Geographic was while there were a lot of people, as far as their trustees went, who recognized how important it was to have these photos for people who very often wouldn't be able to see these animals at all. There were also a number of trustees that were very against the publishing of his work and thought it was a waste of time. I'm not quite sure why, but a couple of them even left the board due to the publishing of his work. And then after that, he even achieved presidential support from Theodore Roosevelt. And I think we all know that Teddy Roosevelt was a man who absolutely loved nature as well as wanted the American people to really appreciate the natural wonders that surrounded us. And Teddy actually reached out to George with, again, no prompting. And he sent him a letter. And there's this one clip that I think is really very telling of how taken the president was with Shiraz's work. And that quote was, "Write a big book, a book of bulk as well as of worth, in which you shall embody these pictures and the results of all your invaluable notes upon the habits, not only of game, but of the numerous other wild creatures that you have observed. Do go ahead and do this work," which must have been really an amazing feeling to get such accolades from the President of the United States. And eventually, his work was published into a volume called Hunting Wild Game with Camera and Flashlight. And it included 950 of his favorite photos and detailed his life, techniques, and the species that he photographs. So, after the publishing of the first edition, Shiraz immediately started on the second. After discovering errors in the text, it really irked him. So he eventually released a second edition, which still, as far as he was concerned, was not good enough. And he was working on the third and final edition when he passed away at the age of 83. Again, unfortunately, unable to release that third and final edition. So this brings us a bit closer to current day with trail cameras in conservation. And while George's work paved the way for future use in conservation, the cost of equipment was incredibly prohibitive at that time. And even though he had made a number of innovations as far as the equipment itself, it was still very, very bulky until the last couple of decades, as it turns out. And it was really in the 1990s and actually, pardon, the early 2000s that this technology became affordable to the point that it could be readily used in conservation. In the 90s, a higher end trail camera cost $400 per unit, which again was just very, very prohibitive. But within 10 years, that technology had not only gotten smaller, more efficient, but significantly more affordable and dropped to about a quarter of that price, usually about $100 a unit. Right now, those costs are still pretty relevant. You can get a decent trail cam for about $100, even on somewhere like Amazon. And some of the species that have been and are currently being aided by trail cameras. Some of the really rare creatures, large megafauna, including snow leopards in China, giant anteaters and jaguars in Ecuador, and bush dogs in South America. They've all had their populations monitored and eventually protected as a result of this imagery. Some additional species, even in the United States, wolves, and a lot of these wolves have been released as part of repopulation projects in numerous national parks. Lynx, bobcat, fisher, and coyotes are also tracked to understand their population density, as well as the health of these creatures and the ecosystem around them as they're being reintroduced or monitored. Some large herbivores and ungulates have been monitored as well, including white deer, mule deer, elk, and moose. And these guys are monitored not only to keep an idea of how strong the population is, but also to know, in some cases, limits as far as hunting goes as well. So some small mammals and reptiles have also been researched and observed, including squirrels, raccoons, skunks, and various amphibians, as well as a number of different bird species. Many species. uh, have been monitored. And again, a lot of these species are incredibly cryptic. They're very, very shy when it comes to interactions with human, to the point that some of them had rarely been observed at all prior to the use of these cameras. So, this brings us to the use of our trail cameras here at the Quag Wildlife Refuge. So, initially, we started to use the cameras in 2024 to monitor and establish recorded presence of the American river otter in the area. And we did this in partnership with Scout Carson Campbell, as well as the Sea-Tuck Mammal Survey. And I'm very happy to report that we have seen them multiple times at this point and gotten some great photos that you guys are going to see in just a little bit. And at this point, we're still looking for a couple of other species, again, still in partnership with SeaTuck, and generally just to get kind of an idea of the species that we have living on the refuge property. That includes, we're looking for the gray foxes, coyotes, and other species, including weasels and other mustelids like that. And at the time that I put this PowerPoint together, we were currently using 4 cameras throughout the property. And again, we've gotten some absolutely stunning photos, and I'm really excited to share them with all of you guys. And here they are. Starting with our beautiful white-tailed deer. We're going to start with some of the relatively more common species, and then get into some of the rarer ones that we were lucky enough to capture. But even the species that are considered common are absolutely majestic. I've put together some fun facts on these creatures so we can see them, enjoy them, and learn a little bit more about them. So as far as our white-tailed deer go, and I'm not even going to try on the scientific names because I do not want to butcher them. So as far as their fun facts go, they communicate using tail signals and scent. They have nearly 310-degree vision to help them monitor and avoid predators. Their antlers grow incredibly fast. We have deer on record that are upwards of 8, 9, 10 bucks, and those antlers grow and fall off every single season. And here's some other photos we got of these guys. Just the ability to capture them in the wild without them knowing really yields some gorgeous and in some cases kind of silly and fun photos. And just a couple more fun facts. We can see baby deer that we got photos of. Baby deer referred to as fawns. And you can see they have a beautiful white speckled coat, and those coats are meant to act as camouflage, especially when the deer are very, very young. Their mothers often stash them in a spot, and the fawns just stay incredibly still. Mom might check in a few times and come back at the end of the day, but they're really relying on their stealth to help them go unseen. Next up, our gray squirrels. We got a couple of fun photos of them. Very often, it was them crossing little fallen branch bridges across some of the streams that we have here at the refuge. And the squirrels, even though they're pretty well all over the place, they're still fascinating creatures. Every year, they bury thousands of acorns and nuts, accidentally planting entire forests just by forgetting about them. And these guys, when it comes to the food chain, are pretty low, relatively speaking. So they have to worry about predators all the time. And to avoid them and confuse them, if they're being chased, they will usually run in a zigzag, again, to confuse and tire out those predators. As rodents, their front teeth never stop growing, and they're perfectly adapted to the constant gnawing that these creatures need to do to find their food and their places to live. And these guys communicate using tail flicks that almost work like flags. And lastly, even though they are mammals just like us and they have a complete skeleton. They can survive incredible falls, and that's mostly due to the fact that they have light bodies. And when they are falling from a great height, they will spread eagle and just kind of buffer their own fall. Next up, we have the Canada goose, another relatively common species, but just seeing these intimate photos are a lot of fun, especially going from the photo on the left. If you look, we can see the male goose kind of squaring off with the deer. And then if you look behind him, there's a little hummock of land, and you can see the female's head poking out. Uh, this was from last year. I am going to say that the timestamps on the bottom, for some reason, we have had an issue with them. Some of them are correct and some of them are not. So just putting that out there. But we were able to monitor this nest remotely. And if you look on the bottom right corner, you can see a photo that we got a bit south of the original photo up here, the photo of the nest. And you can see one of the parents leading the fluffy little goslings down towards Old Ice Pond, which is a really beautiful sight. And when it comes to the Canada geese, they can fly over 40 miles an hour during migration, and they do mate for life. And as we can see here with that goose standing up to a deer, they fiercely defend their nesting territory. I think many of us have seen them migrating, and they fly in those very recognizable V-shaped flight formations. And also, we have, like I said, our fluffy little goslings down here. They imprint on their parents within hours of their birth. And lastly, these guys have absolutely fantastic memories. So we might be lucky enough again to see those parents return this coming spring and witness an entire other little brood of goslings being born. Next up, we have our wild turkeys, a species that when I was growing up was very rare, but due to successful reintroduction efforts, they've really gotten a foothold here on Long Island, which used to be some of their ancestral territory. And always seeing them is fun because personally, I feel like they look like dinosaurs. So some of these photos are almost akin to Jurassic Park, especially the one on the bottom right with the turkey here just kind of peering in from scene left. And some fun facts about these guys include even though they spend most of their time on the ground, they can fly for short distances, during which they can fly as fast as 55 miles an hour, which is pretty cool. And their heads change color to signal mood and social status. Next up, they have excellent daytime vision, and that vision's actually about 3 times sharper than a human's vision, which is pretty cool. At night, again, even though these guys are pretty big, they still have to worry about predators. So they most of the time roost high in trees at night for safety. And a nice, fun little fact for you that you can pull out next Thanksgiving. A group of turkeys is called a rafter. And next up, we have some great nighttime photos of our bandits here at the refuge, our raccoons. Watching the raccoons was a lot of fun because you can obviously tell that they are very, very intelligent just due to their behavior. Looking at some of these guys here, actually, all of these photos, they are in the water. I think most of us have heard how raccoons are very cleanly creatures and they do wash their hands, but they also derive quite a lot of their food from water and aquatic environments. And during the time these photos were taken, we at the refuge were in the process of the American eel migration. So every year we have tiny glass eels, baby eels, and elvers swimming up from the Sargasso Sea, and they go thousands of miles to reach the refuge. a number of spots on Long Island, one of which is Old Ice Pond, which is absolutely amazing. So once we started to notice the baby eels coming in, we also noticed a concurrent increase in activity by the raccoons in the water at night because there were thousands of these eels, and it seems like the raccoons just couldn't get enough of them. So, as far as some fun facts about these guys, their iconic mask is believed to help reduce glare. They're incredibly intelligent, they're problem solvers, and when they solve a problem, they're usually able to remember that solution for years. And they can actually rotate their hind feet to help them climb down trees, which I thought was interesting. You always think about a raccoon or creature climbing up a tree, but making it back down isn't as easy unless you're able to rotate those feet. And lastly, I think we've probably all already heard that they are incredible survivors, and they can pretty well do well just about anywhere, including urban environments. We got another slide with some more photos of these little guys. Thought this one in the upper left was a lot of fun. This was at the height of the glass eel run, and you can tell things were getting a little aggressive. Some of them were starting to act a little territorial. And if you look closely at the guy facing the camera, he is giving the other one the absolute death stare. And I'm not quite sure what happened, but he is exerting his authority as far as his ability to gorge on those eels. Next up, we have our northern flicker, an absolutely beautiful bird species that we have here on Long Island. This is a species that's very often flushed as you're walking through the forest. They spend a lot of time on the ground going after their favorite food, and that favorite food is ants. So when they fly, as you can see here, the sun going through their feathers gives it a beautiful yellow or red flash. Interestingly enough, they love to drum on metal objects. Again, I'm trying to figure out exactly why. They might just be amusing themselves. It might be a form of communication, but definitely very interesting. They're also an ecosystem engineer species, meaning they help to create habitat for other creatures. In this case, they're able to use their strong woodpecker beak to create holes in trees that other species, including owls and squirrels, are able to nest in. Here we have the ever popular mallard duck. Uh, the ducks here are drakes, as you can tell by their beautiful green head. And mallards molt into camouflaged eclipse plumage after breeding season to kind of help them hide a little bit. The eclipse plumage is simultaneously understated, but very, very pretty tones of kind of whites and grays. And most duck species will enter that eclipse plumage, usually at the end of the mating season. I heard not too long ago, one of my colleagues was able to get a photograph of a wood duck in eclipse plumage, which must have been gorgeous. Speaking of wood ducks, here they are. And these guys are probably my favorite species of duck, just because even though they have a passing resemblance to a mallard, the color palette of their plumage is just a work of art. The male having greens and blues, and just the flash of these feathers is really stunning. And we were lucky enough to get photos of both the hens and the drakes here over the last year. So some facts about these guys. They are called wood ducks because they do spend quite a lot of time in the trees. The the females will nest in the trees, in some cases 40, 50 feet up, which makes the early life of their ducklings quite the adventure as to get down to the water and to start their little ducky lives. They have to jump from those high altitudes from the cavities of trees. Lucky for them, due to their lightweight, their fluffy plumage, as well as a unique tumbling fall. They can fall incredible heights and be completely unharmed. Also, the beauty of these creatures helped to inspire some of our early conservation laws. Also, they have very, very strong feet and claws to help grip the bark. And since they do spend so much time in the woods, they're incredibly agile flyers and can fly through a stand of trees without too much problem. And next, we only got one photo, which I was kind of shocked about, of a Virginia opossum. You can see the little one coming in from stage right, crossing that very, very popular branch bridge across Quantuck Creek. And these creatures are not only a positively ancient species, but they are North America's only native marsupial. And I think we all know marsupials are distinguished from other mammals largely by the pouch that they have that they use to raise their young during early development. When it comes to the Virginia opossum, the babies spend the shortest time in utero of any mammal and are born after about only 2 weeks, at which point they're about the size of a jelly bean. They migrate to mom's pouch, where they have milk, safety, and are able to grow. And many people know possums from their tendency to play possum or play dead when they get scared. And interestingly enough, it is not a conscious trick. It's actually a completely involuntary reflex. If these opossums get scared enough, their bodies go rigid. They can't move. They have no choice. Very often, their tongue will flop out. They might excrete a really nasty smell to make whatever's bothering them think they're dead and rotting. And between a half hour to 4 hours later, hopefully after that predator has left unsatisfied, that possum will kind of wake up, shake it off, and continue on their way. And when it comes to possums, a lot of people unfortunately have a bit of a prejudice against them. They might be creatures that you find going through your garbage, or they might be creatures that you might associate with looking like a giant rat. But they are not only incredibly integral to our environment, helping with pest control, they eat thousands of ticks every season. They also eat mice and rats, and they're also scavengers. So they help to break down dead things, which is incredibly important because if our environment was littered with dead animals, we would have to worry about ourselves getting sick. Also, creatures like the opossum, as scavengers, help to recycle vitamins, nutrients, elements back into the soil and effectively help the circle of life begin anew. And another fun fact about these guys, a lot of people assume that they are a common vector for rabies. And interestingly enough, an opossum is about 8 times less likely than other mammal species, dogs, cats, raccoons, to contract rabies or distemper. And that largely has to do with their body temperature. They're very, very different than many other mammals to the point that their body temperature is significantly lower. And that lower body temperature makes it more difficult for a lot of these diseases to incubate and render them ill, which is definitely very, very cool. A really unappreciated creature we have here. Next, these photos aren't as good as I'd hoped, but you can still see they are of a red fox, little canid carnivore that we have on Long Island. You don't see them as often as you used to. They are a very cryptic species, so they mainly are awake at night, making it tough for us to see them most of the time anyway. But these creatures have some absolute superpowers. First of which, they're actually able to sense the Earth's magnetic field and able to use it to help them pinpoint prey under the snow. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but there are some amazing videos out there of foxes diving into snowdrifts and coming up with a mouse or a rat or a vole, having used their ears and helping them kind of geolocate and find north using their ability to perceive the Earth's magnetic field. Next of which, they have vertical pupils, which give them amazing night vision, which again is very important since they're mainly awake at night. They're able to effectively communicate with their own species. Over 20 different vocalizations have been observed and documented. And another interesting thing as far as their voices, each fox has a unique bark, much like a human fingerprint, and you can really keep tabs as to who you're being visited by if you can hear them, because no fox has the same bark, which is pretty cool. Lastly, they do have a bit of ingenuity as far as hard times go. They're a species that will cache food for later in the event, that they're able to catch more than they can eat in a single night. And that is incredibly helpful when it comes to the winter or kind of hard times otherwise. So a really, really cool species. Next, another bird that very much resembles a dinosaur, in my opinion. That is our great blue heron. This guy that we had last year was an absolute ham as well. Got some really fun photos, as we can see here on the bottom left, him peering into the camera almost as if he knows he's being watched. But again, they're a very beautiful, very expressive bird. They are incredibly large as well. They when they fly, they will have their neck in an S shape to help reduce the drag on their bodies. They're lightning fast and able to use their long beak and neck in a spear-like fashion to catch food, including fish and amphibians. Their colonies are called rookeries, and rookeries can actually last with birds returning to the same or similar nests every year. And they can last decades, which is pretty cool. And of course, as a bird, especially a big bird, these guys do rely on their hollow bones to reduce their weight to aid them in taking flight. And even though their head is rather narrow as well as their neck, they can actually eat surprisingly large prey. Next up, this one's a little tough to see, but if you look right in the center, you will see a Cooper's hawk sitting on a log in the water. We're not quite sure if he was there trying to find some food or get a drink or possibly wash off. But this is one of my favorite things about the trail cam photos. If you go through them too quickly, personally, I feel like I would have missed this bird. And again, it's just such a beautiful personal view into their world. And as far as the Cooper's hawks go, they are an accipiter hawk species, meaning that they're mostly forest hawks. And as a result, in their flight, they have to be incredibly agile to avoid flying into trees, which I'm guessing is pretty important. Next of which, to help them in their agility, their tails actually act as a rudder. Also, like many bird of prey species, the females are larger than males, which helps them to protect the nests and rear their young. Cooper's hawks usually are surprise predators. They'll do their best to sneak up on whatever and get the drop on them as quickly as possible. Because even though they are amazing predators, they're still a relatively slight bird. And when it comes to predators, the more often they're able to take their prey by surprise, the more likely they're to survive in the long term. Because if a predator gets injured, they're just that much less likely to be able to hunt for themselves, which would effectively end their lives. And lastly, this is a species that you might have seen frequenting your bird feeders. They are intelligent, or at least intelligent enough to know that those fun little feeders in our backyards might mean a meal for them. Next, another great nighttime series. And this time it is of one of my favorite bird species here at the refuge, the eastern screech owl. And these guys are really interesting for a whole bunch of reasons. Uh, First of which, the fact that their name is a misnomer. They're called screech owls. They make a bunch of different vocalizations, but they do not, in fact, screech. They make more of a whinnying call, actually kind of sounding like a bit of a ghostly horse. So if you're ever in your backyard at night and you hear something that sounds like a ghostly horse, I'd say 99% of the time it's probably an owl. On Long Island, well, in general, they come in two distinctive color morphs, a gray and a red morph, which actually really goes to show how hyper adapted they are to our environment. Because in our pine barrens, we have two very, very common species of trees. We have our pitch pine tree, which has a reddish bark. And we have lots of oaks and scrub oaks that have kind of grayish bark. So these creatures have adapted throughout time to give them amazing camouflage. And if you look at the plumage of a screech owl, it looks almost exactly like bark, which is pretty cool. And this species is another cavity nesting species, which can thank birds like our flicker for making the holes in trees that they might nest in or store their food in. Next up, interestingly enough, our owls have two stomachs, a stomach and a gizzard. They usually eat their food whole. And as a result, there are a lot of things that they bring into their body that they cannot digest, including bones and fur. So a lot of the digestion takes place in that first stomach. The second stomach pretty well mashes everything that's indigestible together, and then it is vomited back up through the process of regurgitation. And lastly, even though this is a small owl, the second smallest owl species on Long Island, the smallest being the northern saw-whet owl, as far as the saw-whets go, very cryptic species. They're not incredibly rare, but it's more rare that you see one. They're usually just there and we'll never know. Um, but we were very, very lucky to see one at the refuge a couple of weeks ago. Our director, Mike Nelson, got a really fun video of it, which was very, very cool. But again, even though these guys are small, they are tenacious. They're amazing predators. And in some cases, they can take down prey almost their own size, which is definitely a very fun fact. Next up, getting into the really rare guys, is the long-tailed weasel. You can see him running across that ever popular branch bridge that we have over the creek. Um, Usually we saw a lot of mice and rats using them, but it would make sense that a long-tailed weasel would use the same corridors as its prey species. These guys are voracious, amazing hunters. Um, And interestingly enough, they have been sighted on refuge property more than once. This is the most recent sighting. Again, please disregard the time and date stamp on the bottom. It is not correct. But a number of years ago, one actually broke into a chicken coop on the property and wreaked a bit of havoc. And another really interesting thing with these guys is very often they will cache um, it seems like trophies relative to their hunt. And here at the refuge, a number of years ago, when the entrance booth was being replaced, they found an interior, oh, pardon, one of the walls absolutely filled with bird skulls. So they believe that the weasel was stashing the skulls in there, which is pretty cool. Another couple fun facts about these guys is they are As far as I'm aware, the only species of mammal on Long Island that can fully change the color of its coat from a brownish to a white during the winter to help them blend in. And even when they change to white, they keep a black tail tip, and that's believed to help confuse their predators and prey. And another fun thing about these guys and some other mustelids like weasels and ferrets, when they get really excited, they engage in what is called a weasel war dance, where they hop and bop around, and it's believed that their fancy footwork is meant to confuse their prey, which I guess makes sense. And here, like I mentioned earlier, was effectively the reason for the season, at least why we initially put out our trail cams here at the Quag Wildlife Refuge, the American river otter. Um, you can see on the photos on the left, they are a bit closer. You can really distinguish what they look like. Absolutely amazing relatives of weasels, stoats, skunks, wolverines, stuff like that. We have some photos on the right that have been verified as river otters. They're a little bit more difficult to see, but thanks to the help from CTUC's Mammal Survey, we did get positive corroboration on the fact that they were river otters. And one of the most amazing things about us catching the river otters on trail cam is the fact that they were a species that was ancestrally here, but only until the late 17 and early 1800s, where they were hunted to local extirpation, effectively regional extinction. And luckily, people ended up banding together after a while to put some limits on the fur trade because otter fur is not only incredibly warm, but it's largely waterproof. So it does make for very useful garments. But you can't take an otter's fur and have them survive. So thousands of these creatures were killed during the fur trade. And now, due to conservation and laws protecting them, they are finally starting to re-enter these ancestral areas. It's largely believed that a lot of the otters here on the East End migrated from kind of holdover pockets in New England, swam across Long Island Sound, and have again begun to repopulate Long Island, which is so cool. And something really interesting about their fur, which again explains but does not justify the the mass hunting of them, is their fur can have up to 1 million hairs per square inch, making it incredibly warm and waterproof. Another couple of interesting facts about them. They can close their ears and nostrils underwater to help them remain under without having to worry about ear infections or anything like that. They're also very chatty, and they communicate between themselves using chirps, whistles, and growls. And this is kind of a fun one. A group of otters is called a romp. And next up is a very interesting species, a species we've only seen once or twice at the refuge. And that would be our summer ecology program campers. So we can see some of the kids on their way back down towards the nature center after, as you can see, a very successful mud day where we take them up through the secret mud trail. And I'm sorry, folks, I'm not going to divulge the location, but take them up so they can get nice and muddy and enjoy this really interesting and unique habitat. And when it comes to these creatures, we believe they're Homo sapiens, or at least we think so. We're not entirely sure. But yeah, we absolutely love the kids that come and join us over the summer, and we do our best to provide them a fun, exciting, and meaningful experience in nature. And that's all, folks. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of fun look into the history of trail cameras and photography and how it eventually became such an incredible force in conservation. And again, you can pick up a trail camera on on Amazon or on the internet for $100 or less, and it can give you this beautiful, very intimate view on some creatures that you might never see at all. So just another amazing piece of technology that fingers crossed can help us not only enjoy the beautiful creatures that we share the world with, but will aid in their conservation and preservation for generations to come. So I am going to turn off mute, and I'm happy to take some questions as part of a little Q&A. So let me see if I can figure this out. Okay, I think, let's see, people should be able to unmute themselves right now. You can feel free to give that a try. Oh, here we go. Okay, first question from Gloria. Hello.
Wolves fish.
Pardon me?
I'd like to hear more about how wolves fish. Did I understand correctly?
How wolves fish?
Yeah, how wolves fish. Did I understand that they fish?
Some species of canids definitely engage in fishing. As far as the gray wolf species, a species we do not have on Long Island, I think they more rely on pack hunting of megafauna. But when it comes to some of the younger species, pardon the younger individuals, especially the males, they are incredibly intelligent. They may very well stalk the shallows. They're very, very quick. But I have to say, I don't know a ton about wolves, but definitely incredibly interesting creatures.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Do we have any other questions? If so, you can feel free to. Oh, here we go. We got a chat. Let's see. One moment, folks. Oh, it looks like we have an update as far as the Cooper's Hawks scientific name. Michael, thank you very much. I will update that. And as far as our cameras, unfortunately, they are not live at least yet. When it comes to the cameras themselves, we have to go out periodically and pick up little memory cards that are in the units. It is actually helpful though because the batteries don't last all that long. But we are hopefully in the future going to work on having some cameras available for folks to check out online. Here's another question from Gloria. Are river otters playful? They are absolutely playful, and to watch them is truly amazing. They are such a lithe, seemingly happy species. And something really cool is, again, we don't have too many predators of otters here outside of cars, which again is incredibly unfortunate. But as far as being hunters, and in some cases ancestrally anyway, prey, their play was actually ways of learning how to not only hunt but reinforce family bonds, which would help to protect them, which is definitely pretty cool. Let's see if we have anything else. And I just want to thank everybody who has said thank you. It's been a pleasure to have you as well. Um, so as far as how many otters we have at the refuge, that would be a really tough question to answer for a couple of reasons. Even though we have caught them on camera a few times, uh, we only got one in frame at a time. But even though that's the case, especially the females with the yearling otters, they may stay together for at least a year as mom is teaching them how to hunt and survive. Um, and we actually had somebody report seeing a romp of otters crossing the road down by the headwaters of Quantuck Bay at some point last year, and that wouldn't surprise me. The waters here are very, very rich in food items for these creatures. Also, like we were discussing earlier, the refuge and Old Ice Pond being a special place for our American eels. Those runs of the glass eels as they come back in from the ocean provides a ton of food. And an adult American eel can be upwards of 3 feet long and would probably provide a great meal for the otters. But another interesting thing about them, being larger, pretty voracious predators, they have massive ranges and they don't stay in one place for long. River otters, relatively speaking, usually have a range about 20 to 24 miles wide that they will actively cycle through. Because they are also intelligent enough to know that staying in the same place for a long period of time actually kind of clues their prey items into their tactics and the need to hide. So they kind of keep the prey guessing by continuously moving through their range. So unfortunately, we can't tell how many otters have been here. Mainly, we're just happy to see them at all. But that is an absolutely fantastic question. Let's see. When it comes to, is there a particular time sequence to activate the trail camera photos? Um, that's a good question. As far as the photos included in this program, we don't have really any subsequent photos. The two photos of American river otter that we had on the left of that slide, the larger, kind of better ones, were taken, as far as I'm aware, within the same evening. I'm guessing they were swimming upwards toward Ice Pond, so facing the camera in the first one and probably leaving back towards the salt marsh and the headwaters of Quantuck Bay later on that evening. Otherwise, when you pull the memory card from the cameras, you can see them in sequence. It'll just show you, the photos as they've been taken. But otherwise, I'm not entirely sure as far as time sequence relative to any of the ones that we've shown tonight. It's a very good question, though. We got another great question as far as otter parenting goes. Uh, Otters are very, very good parents, mainly the females. The males will mate and will be there for a part of her pregnancy, but again, the real bonds between the parents and the babies are mother and the young. And again, they will stay together and she will teach them very often through play how to hunt, what to eat, how to mark their territory. But even though they will mark to let other otters know that they're there, very often in many cases, to not only communicate their presence as far as food goes, possibly very important in mating as well. But interestingly enough, even though they do have their territories, they're not really overtly territorial. But again, I can only imagine all of the different things that a mother otter has to teach their kids, especially considering the fact that they are very rambunctious to begin with. She must have her paws full. So very, very good question. And here we go. Uh, Peg, do mink change seasonal colors? I've seen one on the Peconic a few summers ago. That's a very good question. As far as I am aware, the only mustelid or mammal at large that we have that changes to a white winter coat is that long-tailed weasel. But please feel free to check me on that. I could very well be wrong. And as far as the color patterns and just general coat colors in a lot of these species. It could vary. There's always the possibility of albino and leucistic individuals. So there might be more variability than I know. So that's definitely a very, very good question. Okay. So we have a question here from Diane. Hi, Diane. It's good to see you. Diane was one of our fantastic interns here at the refuge, and in her question, she says you mentioned earlier about species that are monitored via trail cameras for conservation. I am curious, what are ungulates? Ungulates are hooved mammals, very often, deer, elk, stuff like that. Okay. Here we go. Another question. We have how many young, on average, do otters have at one time? That is a very, very good question. The person who reported seeing multiple otters said, I think they saw four. So, let's see. So a litter size would, and I have to say, I am fully checking Google right now on this one and not having any luck. Either way, up 1 to 6 kits. So definitely a lot of work for mom, but really, really cool animals, and we are so incredibly lucky to have them rejoining us because, having these creatures, especially the larger creatures, these are indicator animals. They tell us a lot about the environment because an unhealthy environment cannot support creatures like this, especially creatures that rely on largely aquatic food. Our waterways are impacted, in many cases, impacted quickly by pollution. So fingers crossed. I am hoping that we're seeing these guys back not only due to their conservation, but hopefully because the environment is nice and healthy as well. Got a few more questions here. So another one, any sightings of barn owls at the refuge? As far as I know, no. Um, I know we do have, of course, the saw-whet owls, the little guys that our director Mike was lucky enough to get that video of. We have eastern screech owls. I've heard them in the woods during our night hikes. We also have great horned owls. Um, Definitely a very iconic, very easily distinguished owl species by that very, very distinctive hoot. Um, let's see, I'm trying to think what else. There are probably a few I am missing, but as far as I'm aware, there haven't been many recent sightings of barn owls here at the refuge. Yes, our next question is from Kai about muskrats. He's seen them at Fairy Dell, but do the trail cameras pick them up too? We have gotten 1 or 2 photos of muskrats, but they are so highly aquatic. I have to say they were not good photos. That is the reason that, and I did not include them tonight. But another amazing species, another ecosystem engineer that can affect an entire ecosystem with the lodges that they build to den in. So yes, they're here. Yes, we've seen them. Unfortunately, we just didn't have a good enough photo to include. Okay, and here we have another question. We are in the future hoping to install a live camera. Again, we're not entirely sure where, so I don't want to postulate. Um, but we really are hoping to have a camera linked with our website that people are able to log on and at the very least see the beautiful ducks that we have here on Old Ice Pond. So very, very good question, and fingers crossed. I am hopeful in the future that we will have a live cam that everybody can log on and get their nature fix. So that's a great question, and fingers crossed. Okay, everybody up here. Just got some more. Okay, and Gloria says, Google the question about wolves eating fish. Some Alaskan wolves eat salmon in summer, not just scavenging. Okay. Actively fish, that makes a lot of sense, especially when the salmon are running those rivers and creeks and waterways are full to bursting with those salmon, and those salmon are really big fish. So if a wolf, especially a lone wolf who might be a little down on his luck, because again, very often they do hunt large prey. But yeah, a lone wolf, if they have the ability to hop in that water and grab salmon, that would be probably something that could mean life instead of death. And again, fish is an incredibly nutritious foodstuff. So it makes a lot of sense, especially up in some of the colder climes where there are these big migration events, during which time our mammal megafauna and predators are doing their best to gorge themselves so they can survive the winter. So definitely a very cool factoid, Gloria. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we got another one. Okay, well, and Peg, thank you very, very much. Well, everybody, I just want to say it was an absolute pleasure talking with you guys this evening, and sharing some history on the trail cams, as well as some of the creatures that we have been lucky enough to see here at the refuge. Please feel free to keep an eye on our website. We have programs regularly, whether they are in person with some of our animal species or over Zoom. I'm not sure if all you guys are aware, but we are on the cusp of some big renovations. So I know we're going to be doing a bit more programs on Zoom. So people are able to tune in even if we don't have the Nature Center for a venue for a little while. But you guys are fantastic. This is the reason we do this. And stay curious, everybody. And I hope you have a great evening.